What is up, guys? We are live here with Pro Play Games, bringing you the budget Saiyan Wonder starter deck. So this is going to be a deck that you can just make with 2 of these starters. That's all you need. That will get you a complete playset of all the cards that we're going to profile on here, plus some very cheap budget black cards. We're going to see exactly what we can make the most competitive on the most minimalistic budget. Stay tuned. Before we get started, make sure you guys check out the TCG Player affiliate link down in the description down below. At 0 additional cost to you, you will be shopping across all your favorite local game stores for the lowest prices, I guarantee you, that you've seen online. Just by using that link when you shop, you'll be supporting the channel. So please, we encourage you to use that when you're shopping for your set 10 product. Now, without further ado, remember this is the budget version of the Vegeks deck. If you want to see a more competitive, if you have the budget, if you have the cards that you've already invested into, make sure you check out more competitive content on the PVG DBS Patreon if you're looking to win some really big events. But without further ado, this is the local level, or if you're just getting into Dragon Ball Super and you saw these structure decks at your local game store or Target, this is going to be the perfect shell for you to go and take and see some pretty decent results. So without further ado, let's get to the leader. Vegeta, Xeno, and Trunks Xeno. So front side permanent, you can only play mono black battle cards. So you can still incorporate cards that are red or any other type of color. You just can't actually play them. So that's what the permanent's pretty much gonna let you play. So you can play cards that are off color that you're using for like combos or effects in the warp, but you won't be able to actually play them. Activate main once per turn, burst 5, so pretty much mill 5. If you're coming from YuGiOh, this is the equivalent of Light Sworns, where you're just milling off all your effects. Once you burst 5, then you draw a card. So it's very important that you mill the cards first, then draw a card. You can do that once per turn on the front side. Awaken. So you have 2 different ways of awakening, which has been a consistent trend here with the new set. You can either have 20 or more cards in the drop area, or you can be at 4 or less life. So if you're against decks that stall you out, you can go ahead and awaken ahead of that. So that's really cool. And pretty interesting that when he awakens, not only does he draw 1 and untap 1, which is pretty normal, but he also makes you take life until you have 6 in life. So if you're awakening at 8 life, you'll be taking 2 of that life and adding it to your hand, which is actually, you can see it as drawing additional cards, which is really cool. So if your opponent for some reason is just stalling you out, you can self-awaken on this guy as early as, or as late as turn 4, because the burst 5, which is really interesting, and the deck is really cool. You're going to be able to see the backside here. So once you awaken, this is what makes him even more powerful, because he still has that ability. He has a permanent on the backside, actually. Same thing, you can't play mono black cards, so it doesn't matter if you're on the front or back on this guy. You just can't play mono black cards, or non-mono black cards. And then you have a sparking 20, so that means you need to have 20 in the drop area. And this is very important, because you cannot use overwhelms, or you must use your overwhelms very strategically if you don't want to deck yourself out or lose the game, because the sparking on this, as long as you have 20 in the drop, you're safe from losing from deck out. So if you would deck out, you just reshuffle your drop, put it back into your deck. So it's very important that at the time that you're about to deck out, that you need to have at least 20 in the drop area, and that'll prevent you from ever decking out. So this is Janemba's worst foe. And activate main once per turn, draw 1 card, then burst 5. So it does say place 5 from the top of your deck. It's essentially the same as burst, but you're going to do that. You're going to be drawing the card before actually sending the card to the drop area. And then you can actually give one of your black Unison cards, which right now only 1 exists for this deck specifically. You can play others, but we're not going to be playing them. And it'll gain double strike for the turn. So that's actually a very, very unique ability. And double strike for the turn is very, very also keyword, because we're going to see our Unison, and the only Unison that we really play in this deck, gets extra effects from attacking multiple times. So as we see here, we have Gogeta, SS Gogeta, Fusion of Friendship. And this is going to be the Unison that this is your go-to Unison that you're going to want to be playing. And the reason is, if he's sent to the drop area from the deck, he actually gets to play himself with 1 counter. So he is cost of X, so you can pay 1 energy or 2 energy or 3 energy. However much energy you pay, that's how many markers he starts off with. And you can use like dice to represent markers, but if you come from Magic, they're just like Planeswalker loyalty counters. So it's pretty cool, because he has a +2 and a -4. So his +2, you can activate one of these per turn. So you can either do a +2 or a -4. You can't do them both. So the +2 will add 2 counters onto him. So if he comes into the battlefield with 1 because you mill him with your leader, then he'll come in with 1, and then you can use his ability to +2, go up to 3, choose 1 card in your hand, discard it, plus 10k power until the end of the turn. So he'll become a 15k. He'll be able to actually connect because he's very weak at the 5k power mark, which makes him very vulnerable. Your opponent can attack him with almost anything and remove markers in that way. And then he has a -4. Activate main. This card gets plus 20,000 power, so it'll go up to 25 and dual attack. So as you can see, the wombo combo here is to get him to 5 markers and -4 him, put him down to 1. And then you can go ahead, once you give him plus 20k and dual attack, you can actually give him the double strike for the entire turn. So he'll be able to dual attack, double strike your opponent for 25k. So that's very, very powerful, and it's one of the biggest finishers in the entire deck. And that's why we play 4 copies of SS Gotenks. Now, for the next card that we have in the deck, and this is something that you would normally see in the sideboard against this deck, and we're playing it in the main board here because, of course, we need to stay within the budget. So we're playing 4 copies of Dark Power Black Mass Saiyan. Now, this card is very good in the mirror match because specifically this card reads if your opponent plays a battle card with 15k power or less using a non-keyword scale, your opponent chooses 2 cards from their hand and places them in the drop area. So if your opponent is, plays one of the cards that you'll see later, that if you mill and they get played into the battlefield, then if they're 15k or less, your opponent's going to have to drop a few cards in order to play that if they want to, or else they would have to just leave it in their drop area. So this card is not only good for that auto against a mirror match, but it's also just very good against all the counter plays that you're going to be seeing in set 10 that come down during your turn, and they're all 15k or less, so very good card. It has a lot of applications, and it also doubles as a self-awakener in the cases that you do need to start seeing your life. Remember, this card can self-awaken at 6, but you want to see that life. If your opponent's not attacking, you want to see those extra cards. So there's times where Dark Power Black Mass Saiyan can just help you see those cards really easily. Next card we play as just a 2 of, and this is probably something that you wouldn't see in the main or side of a competitive version, maybe in the sideboard against Slug, but Kami's good because it gives you that draw power. For 1 energy, it'll give you draw power of being able to just draw 1 on summon, and that's something that the deck really needs in the budget version, because in the competitive version, as you know, you can play Not Even a Scratch and Ape and the Saiyan Instincts Ape, and those are great cards, but they're very, very expensive. So Kami's a great budget option because not only does it draw you a card, but it gives you board control. So if you're playing against a mirror match, you can actually wipe out their entire board. There's not many cards that escape Kami's range of 4 or less cost, and it doubles up as, card advantage. You just draw cards. So definitely a really good card if you're playing the budget version. You can move up to 4 on this card if you feel like it's overperforming for you. Next card we're going to play is 4 copies of Son Goku making an entrance. And this card is, sure, it has no actual combo power, but it's very good because not only is it a 1-drop black card, so you can get it with Power Burst, but it's also a negate. So this card, along with Power Burst, can represent 3 negates because you can play the Son Goku as a negate, and then if you're, you can combo it off for free or get rid of it. The Power Burst will be able to buy back the Son Goku. So having access to 2 cards that effectively get used 3 times in a very defensive fashion is great, because there are going to be decks that are going to be able to rush you much faster than you're going to be able to rush them, because this version isn't as aggressive because you don't have as many U3 cards in the deck, because a lot of them require much more expensive options. So you're going to have to play a different game than the normal traditional Vegeks deck that you'll see a lot more competitive players play. So Son Goku making an entrance will give you a lot more defensive capabilities in this deck and give you a lot of utility along with Power Burst. Next card we're going to play 4 of is Supreme Kai of Time, Guardian of Space-Time. And this one comes in the starter deck, so you will get 4 copies, or 2 copies per structure deck. You'll get a common and a foil. And so you'll have 4 no matter what. If you want a matching rarity, you can always buy them, or trade with your friends or something. But this card's very, very powerful. One of the main reasons why this deck is very powerful is because it gets to play, it has access to almost, arguably 8 super combos, and this is, 4 of the 8 that you get to play. And this one, if you mill it from your deck, so if your leader card is Black Saiyan, which this is, when this card is placed in your drop area from your deck by a skill, you may play this card from your drop area. So this is one of those cards that gets hit by the Black Mass Saiyan because it's only 4,000 attack. But its power comes from the first auto is when you have 5 or less cards in your hand, when you combo with this card, it gets plus 5k power for the duration of the battle. So you're going to see this card go up to 10k for 0, which is unheard of. You only really see that from super combos, in the future. Speaking of super combos, we're playing the most unfair super combo I think in the game, and I think this card probably warrants banning, and it's probably one of the biggest reasons why this deck is so damn powerful, is Bibbidi Primeval Conjurer. So this card, if all your energy is black, so if you do end up playing non-black cards, remember you cannot charge them for this to get this ability online. Now this card, when you combo from it, first of all, it gets plus 1,000 combo for each card in your drop area and warp, so it will count everything. So normally you want to keep this card till the very end, that way it's as powerful as it can be and give you a lot of combo to the point that your opponent has to give up several cards to really just out combo this attack. So this combo, super combo, effectively usually reads deal 1 damage to your opponent, or deal however much damage you're attacking with. If the creature you're attacking with has, deals 1 damage, deal 1. If it has double strike, as you can see, this card's very good with the Unison that gains double strike off your leader ability. So that's usually what you want to capitalize on, a big double strike, throwing a Bibbidi on there to really just take it away from your opponent, the ability to actually get to that combo without risking a large amount of cards. So Bibbidi, definitely super combo, the best super combo in this deck, and no reason to play any other type of super combo, and it couples very well with the Supreme Kai, of course, to really just tack on those really big numbers. Next card we play is a starter deck exclusive in time Agent Vegeta. Like I mentioned, there's going to be 2 in each starter deck, so you will have access to 4 of them with Bind 2. This card has unique, so this is one of the first times we see this keyword. It's very new. Unique pretty much reads only 1 copy of this card can be played in your battle area. You cannot have, at no point can you have multiple time Agent Trunks on the board. So we do play a U3 card, which is within the budget to get this time Agent Trunks off the board in order to clear up that spot and allow you to play multiple of these throughout the game. Now this card's unique because it does have the blocker ability, which will allow you to play very defensively if you need to, and it does have an auto when it's played. You can add 1 card from your life into your hand. So another card that you're going to have access to that will allow you to dig into that life and get those cards that you need in order to actually win the game, and just out advantage your opponent, because there are going to be times that you want to dig in there. So that's an optional ability because it says add up to 1. And also, second ability, same thing as the others, when it's placed in the drop area, just like the Supreme Kai, from your deck by a skill, and this can be leader or one of the other cards that I'm going to show you in a bit. You may play this card from your drop area. So this card gets played just as free as the Supreme Kai, and it's all kind of like facilitated by your leader being able to mill 5 cards a turn. So very powerful card, and it being a 3 cost is great because it plays perfectly with the only U3 that's really within the budget. The other ones are really almost $20 a piece. So this one's great because it is a common from the latest draft box. So even if you didn't get the draft box, you should be able to get these on TCG Player using that affiliate link down in the description below, just for about $1 each. So Nigirishi from the Shadows is a very powerful U3 because it's a U3 that can be played from your drop area by warping a 3 cost. And as you can see, as you could have seen before, the Trunks is actually a 3 cost. So these 2 are a match made in heaven because the Trunks fulfills the cost for the Nigirishi to come out for free from the drop area and give you that attacker at any time. Also clear up that time Agent Trunks spot so that you can start milling another one, possibly with another one of your effects. So Nigirishi has a lot of different uses in this deck, and it can also be played over a few other cards. Remember, it just requires a 3-cost sacrifice in order to play it from your drop area. It does have the drawback that when it leaves the board, it goes to the bottom of your deck, or when you combo with it, you put it to the bottom of your deck. The great thing about the U3s is that you can discard them with the Unison ability, the +1 Unison ability, to get them in the drop area whenever you need, or you can just mill them with your leader. Very powerful card. Also, thing to note, he is an activate battle or activate main, so you can actually be in a combat with the Trunks, block an attack, and then play the Nigirishi in that same combo if you want to use the Trunks defensively and then follow it up with something to save that Trunks for an aggressive attack next turn with the Nigirishi follow-up. Next card we play is Double Crisis Crusher, and this is a card that you would normally see in the sideboard of this deck because it's very, very good at doing what it does, and it's really super powerful at getting rid of the Dark Power Black Massane. That card can be the bane of your existence if you're playing this Vegeks deck, so you got to be very aware that you need to have ways to remove it. And we have Crisis Crusher and another card that we'll show later in the deck profile that you can use to effectively deal with that card. But the great thing about Crisis Crusher is that it doubles up as well as a Nigirishi target, because once it's on board, it's a 3-cost, but if you play it while you have no battle cards, it's actually a 1-cost. So it's a really good card. It can pop a lot of different targets. If you're playing against a mirror match, it can also pop their Supreme Kais. In any deck, they're usually filled with some type of 1-drop. So this Crisis Crusher, the reason why we're not playing 4 is that, you know, in some matchups it's really not going to do anything, and it's only really, really fantastic when you don't have a board, and that doesn't happen too normally. But if you do get to that point, then Crisis Crusher is great. And you can also side the other 2 or go up to 4 in the main board if you really like. But the card can definitely shine in a lot of different circumstances, and because it can actually be offed for the Nigirishi, it gives it even more utility than it had before. Next is going to be 4, Furthering Destruction Champa. Now, this card is extremely powerful because it will give you double strike in the middle of a combat. So cards like your leader that don't have double strike or can get double strike, your opponent may not be suspecting of it. You attack, they don't negate. All you have to do is throw a Champa into the combo, give your attacking card double strike, and then tack on a Bibbidi, and it's as simple as dealing 2 damage at your own whim. It's reminiscent, if you played before, of Mira and Champa, how those 2 cards usually meant 2 damage 100% with no real drawback. This one requires a little bit more setup because you do need to build up that drop area / warp to make that Bibbidi big. But remember, your Vegeks doesn't allow you to play non-black battle cards, but this is not playing you're not going to be playing this card onto the board. You're actually just going to be using it for that combo ability of giving the attacking card double strike. So Champa, very good. It is a little bit more accessible and cheaper because it comes in the starter deck, but if you do have access to the E Supreme Kai, that would be a little bit better of a choice because that card actually gives you the option to give double strike or not. Champa is mandatory that attacking card must have double strike. Very rarely does that ever pop up, but it's definitely worth noting. Next card in the deck is another one, starter deck exclusive that really puts this deck into a very competitive tier. Time Agent Vegeta does a lot for the deck. Not only is it a 19k beater, but it also has that auto that if it's milled and your leader is a Black Saiyan, it gets played for free. So you're playing a free 19k 4-cost card, and that's so powerful. It does have the unique tag. Thankfully, if it did not have the unique tag, this deck would be out of hand crazy. But the unique tag is going to allow it so that you only have 1 on board. It also has a permanent when it would be removed from your battle area and sent to the owner's warp instead. So it can't be used for that U3 4-cost card, which is a great tag. Thankfully, it does have that, or else, like I said, the deck would be really, really dumb. And then, of course, it has an activate battle once per turn, which can be played during your turn or your opponent's turn. It's an activate battle, guys. So, you know, there's 2 different battle phases, yours and your opponent's. So once per turn, you can pay 2, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards with energy cost of 3 or less, and send it to the owner's warp. So that's extremely, extremely powerful. And like I mentioned before, how do you deal with your opponent's Dark Power Black Massane? How do you deal with your opponent's threats? Well, this guy is the way. Time Agent Vegeta, for the cost of 2 energy, will deal with anything 3 or less, which is usually what you need to deal with that really causes a problem with this deck. There's not many other cards that this deck really can't deal with because of its aggressive playstyle. So Time Agent Vegeta does a lot of cool things for you, including removal and having a beat stick. 19k is not very easy to beat over. So very good card. Next card we're going to be playing in this deck, and this can be replaced with anything else that you feel like. This is not 100% mandatory, but it is a very good card because remember, this is a more defensive version of the deck. If you're playing a more offensive version, of course there's no need for cards like this, but this blocker revenge barrier card for the cost of 2 energy is extremely powerful. On top of that, it does not overwhelm you, so you don't lose all cards in your drop. You do have the ability to warp any 4 cards in your drop area, putting them into your warp and playing this card from your hand. So it's super powerful. Because of that, it lets you choose. It's 15k, so you can actually attack with it if you like, but a lot of the time it can just sit back as a blocker revenge barrier, and your opponent doesn't really have too many ways to interact with the card, and this can really defend you against any of those threats that you may not be able to deal with the Time Agent Vegeta. If your opponent plays like a 5 cost or 4 cost or 6 card bomb, how do you deal with that card if they're already into their mid or late game? It's very hard for this deck to come back from that. So you have an inherent removal that pretty much hits any card in the game, because you can just throw this Kakarot in front of it as a blocker, save yourself the attack, and knock out that card in the process with the revenge keyword. Next is going to be a card that is arguable. I mean, I know this is a budget deck profile, and I know that these are, last time I checked, about $5 or $6 a piece. Now that is still within the budget, but at the end of the day, this card was 50 cents. Yes, 50 cents on TCG Player, Pro Play Games. Every online shop had this card for about 50 cents or lower. So this might be sitting around. Make sure you check it out. It's from Series 9, I believe. And this card, the reason why it's not at 4 is because, hey, maybe you don't have this card sitting around. And if you put 4 and you got to buy them, that's, you know, that's $20. That's as much as you paid for 2 starter decks. So got to be careful. I only put 2, but if you have 4, 1000% put 4. This card does it all. It allows you to send 4 cards from the top of your deck into your drop area, so it fuels your Bibbidi, it fuels the ability for you to hit your Kai, it fuels the ability to hit your Trunkses and your Vegetas and all those cards that you want to hit off the top of your deck so that they can get played for free. This card does it all. On top of that, the cherry on top of the whole thing is that it warps a battle card from your opponent's drop area. So if they're playing Saiyan Instincts, if they're playing anything that recurs from the drop area, if you're playing against a mirror match and you want to hit a U3, this card has so many different like utility. It's just crazy, because at the end of the day, almost every deck splashes the Ape or Ribrianne or whatever they have in the drop area, and this card, being able to take them off that is just huge. To round out the extra cards, you're going to play 4 Power Bursts, and this card is just fantastic. It's hands down one of the best negates next to Power Burst and Shocking Death Ball. I think that I would probably put this as number 2 behind D-Magic. But Power Burst is great because you don't have to have any energy up. You can take your own life. So if you are in those positions where you're getting stalled out, it does happen. Power Burst will be able to be active no matter what. And on top of that, when it's played, you can actually get a 1-drop black card from your drop area and add it to your hand. So that's going to be really good at getting, like I said, recycling those Son Goku negates, or getting back a Kami, or even getting back a Kai. That's like getting back a super combo from your drop area. It's really powerful. And then these last 2, like I said, they can be those Majin Buu extinction attacks, or if you don't have them, this can be 4 petrification, or it could be 4 extinction attacks if you have them, like I said. But the petrification is really good because it's another negate, but it's also not only a negate, it'll actually be able to stun one of your opponent's cards ignoring barrier. So it'll stun it from being from attacking or being used in combos, I believe, and the effects. So just all around very powerful card, definitely to have in the sideboard if you're not maining it in competitive builds, but it's definitely a card that is great. It's just we already have a lot of negates in this deck, so we're only playing 2, but like I mentioned, if you don't have the extinction attacks, this would be a great replacement to fill in that slot. And this is a 50 card deck. You will be playing 60 cards in the more competitive version, but in this version you just want to recycle the deck as many times as possible, see as many Bibbidies, recycle all these cards. It's just a very good deck. But that's pretty much it for the deck profile, guys. If you liked it, please leave a comment, like down below. Make sure you guys use our affiliate link to buy all Series 10 cards from your favorite local game store, whether it be us or somebody else. And make sure you guys check out the Patreon for a competitive deck profile of this, which is already on the channel. I've won multiple tournaments already with this same exact deck, and a few other deck profiles from Peter, Marcel, and everybody else from Team PVG. Till next time, guys, we'll see you.